Welcome back to another episode of the Inquisitive Mamba Podcast. This is episode 167. Hope everyone is having a great day, great night, wherever you are around the world. I'm still feeling under the weather. Had to go to the doctor this past Friday to get some medication. As you guys can tell, my voice is extremely nasally, so I'm going to do the best I can for you guys. But there's a lot to get into on the show with college football, with the playoffs starting this weekend. A&M, Miami, Tulane, James Madison, Ole Miss, you name it. Alabama, Oklahoma, Friday night kicking us off there. Recap of this NFL past weekend we just had, the Shedeur Sanders wristband situation there. The Patriots losing to the Bills up 21 points. Yeah, my Patriots losing to the Bills. Josh Allen being Superman. But before we officially get into the show, make sure to follow us on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Well, I had a pretty good weekend. I had to power through it. I had to go to a wedding. Congrats to my two friends, Coral and Zach. They got married this past Saturday in Sarasota. Had a blast there. A lot of fun times. Had to dance my tail off as best as I could on the dance floor. Everyone said, Joey, we want you at the wedding. We want you at the wedding. Well, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. First, I wasn't going to go, but I decided that I had to be there even though I wasn't feeling well. I didn't really want to go because I wasn't feeling well. So I ended up powering through it and did the best I could, but we're coming out of this cold now, doing the best I can. But to start the show, I don't like to talk about politics. I don't like to talk about anything like that. But, two serious things, very sad tragedies happened this past weekend. One in Australia, of course, the Bondi Beach, and then you had Brown University, where I was born in Providence, Rhode Island. So my heart goes out to all the victims involved in both of those shootings there. You never want to see anything like this happen, and it's a very sad thing. And praying for all the families and all the people and all the victims that have been involved, and hoping that they find the shooter in the Brown University. And hats off to the person that saved a lot of people in the Bondi Beach shootings as well. So just wanted to throw that out there before we officially start. But college football, that's how we're going to start the show officially with our first segment. Well, I really don't know what to say anymore about college football. Transfer portal, college football playoffs this weekend. The transfer portal officially opens January 2nd. It closes on the 16th. The whole calendar, National Signing Day, you name it, yada, yada, yada. Christmas is around the corner. And Mario Cristobal said, we should just cancel Christmas, right? With everything that's going on. But everybody's been asking me, yesterday they were asking me, Joey, you're going to talk about DJ Lagway on the show, right? And I said, yeah, I was texting a friend of mine. And I said, that's the first thing that we're going to talk about. So the first thing we're going to talk about is DJ Lagway on the show. And DJ Lagway has officially entered the transfer portal yesterday. Now, when I saw this news, I was kind of confused, but then again, I wasn't. I understand when you have a new coach, a new regime, it's a fresh start. But the way this transpired, the way everything happened was really confusing to me. Well, let's go back a while back, right? Before yesterday, before Billy Napier, before all that. Well, DJ Lagway was supposed to be the second coming of Christ for Florida. He was supposed to be the next Tebow. He was supposed to be this guy. He was supposed to be that guy. We saw flashes last year in 2024 when he had a great year and he was 6-1 as a starter. And then this offseason, he couldn't get healthy and everything. There was a lot of question marks around Lagway's health. Can he stay healthy? That was the biggest thing with DJ Lagway. And then you fast forward to the beginning of this season and he looked okay against Long Island. And then the season really started when he played against USF. And you're like, okay, the DJ's not fully healthy. Like, he's going to get some games under his belt, but it just got uglier and uglier. 5 interceptions against LSU earlier this season. But the biggest thing for me about the whole DJ Lagway thing is his dad, Derek Lagway, originally wanted DJ Lagway to go to USC or Texas A&M. There's no secret. The cat's out of the bag. We all know at this point. Everyone knew on National Signing Day. His dad tried to get him to flip to go to USC. And now he's officially out of Florida. His suitors are Baylor, LSU, and Miami. Now, the thing about the whole DJ Lagway thing for me is he didn't want to be challenged at Florida. Well, hey, I hate to tell you, DJ Lagway, you haven't earned anything at Florida. You haven't done anything. So you don't get the right to tell the coach that I don't want to be challenged. I think I should go elsewhere. Fine. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. And that's the biggest thing I have about college football now, because these guys are getting paid. If you don't like it, the door is that way. Any guy who doesn't want to play for your program can hit the door. The door is right there. Unlock the door and go. Because if you don't want to be here, that's fine. And my biggest thing, too, another thing I wanted to mention, DJ Lagway said he was a logo guy. He's a Gator. He bleeds orange and blue. Well, clearly that's not the case. And I understand there's no loyalty in college football anymore. I totally understand that. These guys got to do what's best for their family, and he's got to prepare for the draft. Because I'll tell you right now, if he has another season like he just did last year, where he was quote-unquote hurt and he wasn't the guy that he's supposed to be, he won't be getting drafted, or he'll get drafted late, or he'll have to stay another year. But the best thing DJ Lagway can do for himself, if LSU wants him, is go to LSU. Now, I saw Lane Kiffin, he reposted DJ Lagway entering the transfer portal. Now, listen, I understand exactly what DJ Lagway is doing. I don't fault him for leaving Florida. I really don't. But if you don't want to be challenged, the door is right there. Maybe Lane Kiffin can revive him. Maybe there's a lot more potential in that tank, and I think there is. I think there's a lot of juice left in that tank for DJ Lagway. This is a guy who is one of the best dual threat quarterbacks coming out 2 years ago out of Willis, Texas. He was the Gatorade Player of the Year. He's had all these accolades in high school, but he didn't do much for the Gators for him to be wanting to stay there. And there's a lot more that goes into the whole DJ Lagway thing. Was he coached properly? Did he really get a fair shot at Florida? Should he been given more of an opportunity? I mean, the keys were all there for Lagway. It sucks to say that he couldn't stay healthy this year, and what could have been with DJ Lagway. I mean, that's really, really one thing I'll say is what could have been. Now he's going to leave, and his dad did go to Baylor as well. So DJ Lagway could very well go to Baylor. It's not a big name program as it used to be. Obviously, they have RG3. They've had other names in the past, but if he doesn't want to be challenged, maybe he should go to Baylor. Maybe that makes sense for him, because I don't think Texas Tech is going to want him. I think they're linked to Brendan Sorsby, who also entered the transfer portal from Cincinnati. So you have that there as well. A&M is going to bring back Marcel Reed. I don't see him going the draft because he still has eligibility. So maybe he needs to go back to Baylor for a year go back to Texas. He goes to Baylor, he molds, he gets that development maybe that he needs, but I don't think Baylor is going to be able to develop him like LSU or Miami would. Now, these are just rumors, the three teams that are potentially interested in him. A lot more is going to transpire when this portal officially opens on January 2nd. So we'll talk a little bit more about the Lagway. I mentioned the three teams here for DJ Lagway. Did Florida mishandle his development? I mean, you could say that. It's very tough to say. He was 6-1 as a starter. He finished his career at Florida, 28 touchdowns, 23 interceptions, 1 rushing touchdown. It was always with DJ Lagway, it was like the potential. What was going to be? That was my biggest thing with Lagway. It's like, I got excited watching him on Saturday. So like, man, he can make those throws, but then he goes and he can't read a defense. It was like one step forward, one step backward. He takes one step forward, and then he comes backwards. So is Lagway a bounce back guy in a new system? You know, it remains to be seen. Is Miami going to want to take a flyer on him? Is LSU going to want to take the flyer, or Baylor? You know, it's just hard to say, because Baylor could very well seat DJ Lagway. He's from Texas. He's back home. He's in the comfortable state. He's not, he's back in his home state. So, but is Kiffin really recruiting via retweet? Yeah, Lane Kiffin's slimy. It doesn't shock me one bit. I wouldn't be shocked if Lane Kiffin has already been on the phone to DJ Lagway, even though the portal doesn't officially open till January 2nd. Will he stay in the SEC or head somewhere else entirely? Well, we're going to find out here in a few weeks where he officially goes. If you're asking me where I think he'll go, I saw somebody say on social media to me he could go to Ole Miss. The Ole Miss doesn't want him. They're still trying to fight the sweepstakes of Trinidad Chambliss to see if his eligibility is if he's up for eligibility next year with the waiver, with his granting his waivership, or the last point I'll mention about the DJ Lagway thing. I am 100% completely content. We got the closure we needed from DJ Lagway. Best of luck to him in his near future. I still think he can be a great college quarterback, but I think with John Sumrall, the way he went about it is if you don't want to be challenged, you can go. I can find somebody else who wants to be here and put the effort in, and that's really the last thing I'll say. Good for him. Best of luck to in the near future. What could have been, but good for John Sumrall for, being hard nosed and saying, no, if you don't want to be here, if you don't want to be challenged, the door's that way. The Chipotle ads and all that stuff can go that way. If you're not serious about being here, bye-bye. Best of luck to. Next segment I wanted to talk about is Arch Manning. Last night this came out. Arch Manning is officially staying at Texas for one more. Well, he's staying at Texas for one more season, I would say. Good for Arch Manning. He had a rough start to the season this year. He finished with 24 touchdowns, 7 picks. He had 8 scores on the ground. So they finished 9-3. Obviously, they lost to Florida, but I think for Arch Manning, this is perfect to stay one more year. You can be a Heisman next year, because you're gonna have Julian Sayin next year, you're gonna have Marcel Reed, you're gonna have Bryce Underwood, Sam Levitt, Lagway will still be there, Rayola. So I don't think it's a far-fetched statement that Arch Manning can't be the best quarterback in the country next year in college football. Like Texas, they're loaded on their roster, ton of NIL money. It makes perfect sense. The Mannings know exactly what they're doing with this situation. He wasn't ready for the draft, and everyone was like, he's going to declare for the draft. And then his season kind of started to sputter a little bit, and then he got better, and then they beat A&M. So this is perfect for Arch. This is his second year officially under his belt. He showed flashes this year, but it's smart for him because why not? You're probably going to be the number one quarterback coming out of the class for next year's for the 2027 NFL draft. Because this year's draft's kind of wonky. I mean, of course, you had LaNoris, who was supposed to be the guy for this upcoming draft. He was supposed to be the first overall pick. They were saying next to Mendoza. So like this draft class at quarterback isn't like extremely loaded. I mean, you got Ty Simpson, you got Mendoza. So, and if I'm missing anybody else, please let me know. But maybe I'm just drawing a blank at the moment. But good for Arch for staying. The Mannings, like I said, they know exactly what they're doing. This is a complete tactic type move. They're setting him up for the NFL, for his NFL future. And I think it works out perfectly. And you know what? I'm not going to, I wouldn't be surprised if Arch doesn't win the Heisman next year. I really don't. Because, I mean, really, he can officially take college football by storm next year. Well, the next thing I wanted to talk about was the transfer portal in college football. And we briefly talked about this with the DJ Lagway situation. A lot of players have entered the portal in the past couple of days. You had Brendan Sorsby from Cincinnati. You had Aiden Chiles from Michigan State, Lagway from Florida, Levitt officially entered the portal from Arizona State. Dylan Raiola is another big name there as well. You had some other guys there, TJ Finley, which we can briefly talk about that. 7th-year eligibility he's trying to get, which is absolutely insane. But I don't fault these players for entering the transfer portal. At the end of the day, it is now a business. If you don't want to be here, the door is that way. And that's exactly what I was saying a few minutes ago about the whole Florida Gator situation with DJ Lagway. I don't fault these players for leaving, but just remember, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Just because you leave doesn't mean it's going to be better. And I like I said, I don't fault these players for leaving because they have to worry about their families. They have to worry about the NFL draft. And if you're not going to pay me the money that I'm worth, that's fine. It's a business at the end of the day. Loyalty doesn't exist in sports anymore. The days of the Bradys, the Jeters, the Tim Duncans, those don't exist. Steph Curry, he's still on the Warriors. That's an anomaly. But college football, DJ Lagway said he's a logo guy and he's entered the portal. So, and he said he wanted to stay there, quote unquote. But no. And Lane Kiffin, loyalty, there you go right there. I don't fault these coaches and I don't fault these players for wanting to leave. I remember last year, Michigan was trying to poach Jeremiah Smith Ohio State. Michigan was trying to poach Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State, and it didn't work out in their way. If Bryce Underwood leaves Michigan, don't fault him for leaving because of what you put around him. These guys have to do what's best for themselves. They got to go to the NFL. They're preparing for the next level with the NFL draft. If you can't develop me, if you can't put me in the proper position to win or develop me the right way, then I'm gone. Same thing with Dante Moore when he entered the portal, and now look what he did at Oregon. Raiola, I don't fault Dylan Raiola for leaving Nebraska. What is Nebraska going to do for him? Now, on the other side of the coin is, yes, these players have to play better, but if they're going to be developed properly and better elsewhere, then I have no problem with them leaving. This is their life. This is their development. It's their future. If a player decides leaving, it's the best move. You can't fault them. So people sitting on social media or just the casual fans out there, don't get upset when the best player from your team leaves or your favorite player leaves because there's no more loyalty. Don't buy a college football jersey with a player's name on the back of it because the chances are they're probably not going to be there next year. I know NFL may be a little different, but college now, like DJ Lagway, all the merch that was being sold by Florida, and now he's gone, and I feel bad for the player or the fans who bought his jersey or other circumstances as well in college football. There's no more loyalty. So don't get upset when one of your favorite players leaves. It's just a job, just like everyone else. You work a job, they work a job. Don't fault them. They're under immense pressure because they're trying to get to the next level. The next thing we'll talk about, sticking on college football, is LaNoris. Well, LaNoris was supposed to be the guy this year. He couldn't stay healthy. They had a very rough season this year, and he was linked potentially to the Miami Hurricanes. You saw Cam Ward obviously transfer there the season before, and then you had Beck this season we have now transfer there. So he was linked to Miami. He was potentially going to get a bag, but good for LaNoris. I don't fault him for staying, or I don't fault him for coming back. He wasn't ready for the NFL yet. I think he needs one more official year to see. And I really hope that LaNoris can really turn into the quarterback that we've all been hoping for. I mean, he had a pretty good year in 2024, but this year was kind of similar to Florida, 4-8, a lot of disappointment, a lot of high expectations, and it really didn't turn out the way they wanted to. But yeah, I'm glad he didn't enter the portal. I'm glad he didn't enter the draft. Stick with South Carolina. You're comfortable there. I know his dad said that he could have taken a bag last year, but he wanted to stay at South Carolina. I don't fault him for it. He could have gone to Miami, but maybe his market wasn't as big as he was put out to be because there was a lot of hype there. So, I mean, him staying at South Carolina makes total sense. I'm excited to see what he'll do next season, and hopefully he can stay healthy because he's a really fun player to watch when he's fully healthy. But the next thing we'll talk about is Dylan Raiola entering the portal officially. Well, if you know who Dylan Raiola is, everyone he thinks he's Patrick Mahomes 2.0, right? With the hair, the number, the throws, all this and all that. And he wants to go to Texas Tech, but that Texas Tech probably isn't going to let that happen. And he's also linked to Oregon with Dan Lanning, so maybe that could be a possibility if Dante Moore does declare for the draft. And we're still waiting on that. One of my good friends, Ethan, shout out to the Couch Reports, my old co-host. We were talking about this over text, and I was like, I can't figure out if Dylan Raiola or if Dante Moore is going to declare for the draft or he's going to stay. These playoffs will determine a lot with what's going to happen. I'm sure they're going to win the first round against James Madison. I think they're favored by 24 points. But sticking here on Dylan Raiola, well, there's a lot of hype around this guy too. He's another one, just as much as DJ Lagway. A lot of these guys are always hyped, but sometimes they don't pan out the way. And a school like I mean, it does make sense. Oregon makes sense. West Coast team. He's playing out in the Midwest in Nebraska now. Dan Lanning's had, he's had a track record of helping these quarterbacks. Dante Moore, you just saw, other quarterbacks in the past. So just Dylan Gabriel last year as well, excuse me. So I think Dylan Raiola to Oregon makes a lot of sense. I think other teams will be calling as well. And it all falls on the shoulders if Dante Moore is going to come back. If he doesn't come back, the streets are wide open. The runway is clear for Dylan Raiola to go to Oregon. But hey, on the other side of the coin, Dylan Raiola has a lot of hype around him. He's got to play much better for his next team. If it's Oregon, whatever team it is, maybe it's not a big team like Oregon. I don't think it's going to be Texas Tech, as Sorensby entered the transfer portal. Cincinnati, I guess his girlfriend transferred to Texas Tech as well for volleyball, so he'll probably follow in her footsteps as well. But this is big for Nebraska, losing a guy like Raiola, because you put all your chips into him. And of course, Raiola originally committed to Georgia and then he decommitted, and now it's wide open. And I don't fault Raiola for leaving. What can you do for me that you weren't able to do? Because Nebraska is not the school that's going to cut it for Raiola. Now, like I just said, Raiola's got to play much better for his next team. Of course, hasn't really lit the top off yet. There's a lot of potential there. He's shown some flashes, a lot of hype. That's really the next thing I'll say. But, this past weekend we had the Heisman. We talked about this on last week's show, and I can't believe we're already here again. We talked about it, and we said Fernando Mendoza is going to win the Heisman. He's 100% going to win the Heisman. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And we talked about it, and we were like, well, if Ashton Jeanty didn't win the Heisman last year, then there's no way Jeremiah Love can win the Heisman this year. The numbers don't match up properly. Then you had Sayan, who led the nation in completion percentage, but he lost to Indiana, and Mendoza outplayed him, so you can't give it to him. Then you go to Pavia, who had 4,000 all total. Excuse me. And you had Pavia, who had 4,000 all total yards there as well. And you were like, well, he didn't have the season that Mendoza had. Too many losses. Yes, they're in the SEC. And then you had Mendoza, Love, Sayan, and Pavia. So yes, in my opinion, 100% Fernando Mendoza deserved the Heisman. And you know what? I love it. Kind of an underdog type story. Transferred from Cal to Indiana. Nobody expected this. 13-0. The perfect season for them. Number one seed in the college football playoff. I mean, he completed over 71% of his passes. And people sitting here telling me this is one of the worst Heismans in years. I can't believe it. Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels and Joe Burrow and Derek Henry and Mark Ingram, and all these other players, Devontae Smith, have lit the top off when they won the Heisman. It's like, it's a different year. Every single year is different. Remember that. Fault the guy all you want, but he led Indiana to a 13-0 season. They beat, quote unquote, the best team in the country in Ohio State. And okay, he didn't have 3,000 passing yards, but you know what? He showed up when it mattered most, and he 100% deserved the Heisman. I mean, he cleared the doors with the votes. I mean, 643 first place votes and 2,362 total points. He was convincingly the Heisman, and good for him. And I love that he shouted out his mom too. He's a Florida kid. He came from Miami, and hats off to him. And I really hope, I would love to see Indiana win it all. I know I'm a big SEC guy, but I think it would be great to see an underdog story like that. You just beat Ohio State, you come into the playoffs, and maybe they run the table in the playoffs this year like Ohio State did last year. Who knows? But this is a huge accomplishment. This is a huge feat for Mendoza. Historic but controversial, what I kind of just mentioned. It's not really disrespect. It's about the expectations. The Heisman, everyone's like, they have to have all these crazy stats and all this and that. I mean, but in my opinion, he's been the best player in college football this entire season. I mean, we broke down the voting and everything like that. I mean, he had 33 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and he had 6 rushing touchdowns as well. So 39 total touchdowns. I mean, it's close to 40. Pavia, of course, did his thing but really, there's not much more to talk about it. But the next thing I wanted to bring up too with college football, we're going to stick on college football for a little bit longer and then we'll move on. But Kalen DeBoer reiterates his commitment to Alabama and Michigan rumors. Everyone has been talking about this past week. I just wish they would let these college coaches breathe. It's like Kalen DeBoer is literally coaching Alabama this Friday. He is not going to Michigan. Even if Alabama loses to Oklahoma, DeBoer isn't taking the Michigan job. Why would he leave Alabama? Well, the pressure in Alabama, like compared to Michigan, it's not as much pressure as in Michigan as Alabama. It's like, if he didn't want the Alabama job in the first place, then he wouldn't have taken it. So, and he basically said, I have not spoken, I have no interest in speaking with anyone else about other jobs. I'm fully committed to this program. Yes. And I know he's following in the footsteps of Saban, and it's very, very tough to do that and to have that success or that measurement that Saban had all those years. And yeah, anytime you fill in those shoes of a college football legend, you're going to have pressure on you. I remember when they wanted to fire him after the Florida State game. Hypothetically, what happens if Alabama wins it all? Are you still going to want DeBoer fired? Oh, well, he's probably still going to take the Michigan job. It's like, put those rumors to bed. Let him coach against Oklahoma this Friday night in Norman, and let's see what we got here. I mean, he's made it clear he's not spoken with and has no interest in speaking with anyone else about other opportunities. I don't see why Kalen DeBoer would leave Alabama. I think he'd be absolutely crazy to leave there to go to Michigan. I mean, I understand Michigan's a great school, a lot of recruits, but I don't see why he would leave. I don't think he will. And of course, Alabama's AD has backed him publicly too. They're committed to him just as he is to the program. So I really don't see any reason why he would leave Alabama. People's argument would be, well, the pressure is not as high. The Big Ten's easier than the SEC. He doesn't have to worry about filling Saban's shoes, but he's not going anywhere, at least for now. And Alabama's stability remains at the top as they head into postseason play. Now let's get into the college football playoff postseason. Let's get into the first round. Well, we got what we got this weekend. Our first game, of course, is Alabama and Oklahoma, and prediction time, baby. Well, as Jalen Waddle did say, I was listening to this on ESPN last night from the Dolphins and the Steelers game, which was an absolute game. Cold weather, Dolphins can't win in that. We'll get into that later. However, though, the Alabama-Oklahoma game is huge, right? Because Alabama lost to Oklahoma earlier this season at Alabama, at home at Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa, in T-Town. Well, Joey, how are you feeling? We'll do a short little breakdown of this game. Obviously, Alabama probably should have won that game earlier this season at Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa. They had some penalties. I think they had the muff punt. Ty Simpson had 1 or 2 interceptions. They really couldn't get the ground game going. But you know what? Alabama comes to play, and this game this Friday against Brett Venables, it's so hard to beat a team twice in a season. And you know what I think? I think Alabama has a sour taste in their mouth after losing to Georgia in the SEC championship, and all the narratives out there and all the haters out there saying Alabama shouldn't be in the playoff, Joey. They shouldn't be in the playoff. They lost to Georgia. They got mollywopped 28-7. I can't believe they got in over BYU. But you know what? I think Alabama puts the haters to bed this Friday night, and they beat Oklahoma at Oklahoma this Friday night. It's going to be a great one. And let's talk a little bit about Oklahoma. Well, John Mateer hasn't really been able to stay healthy this year. He had the injury earlier this year with the hand, and they looked really good in the beginning of the year. They kind of sputtered a little bit against LSU the last game of the season. So this is going to be a great one. I expect this to be a close game, but I think Alabama learns from their mistakes from the game earlier this season at Alabama, and they win this game, and Kalen DeBoer puts the rumors to bed. He is here to stay, and I'm rocking with the true SEC team, Alabama Crimson Tide, to beat Oklahoma in a close game. They learned from their mistakes from the game that they played at Alabama. And Ty Simpson proves why he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I know Oklahoma's got a great defense, so it'll be a great one. But give me Alabama in a close game. That's where I'm going. And Alabama moves on to the quarterfinals against Indiana. That's my prediction. All right, next game. Texas A&M, Miami, number 7 versus number 10. Well, Miami, they snuck in. Nah, they didn't sneak in. They beat Notre Dame head-to-head. First game of the season. They 100% deserve to get in the playoff. We talked about that last week on the podcast. Now, this is going to be a huge test for A&M against Miami. Well, A&M is home, of course, and they're favored by 3.5 points. This is such a tough one because Carson Beck played in the SEC with Georgia. He understands the SEC. The experience is there. A&M is a good team. You know, they lost, of course, their last game of the season against Texas, you know, at Texas. This is tough. I mean, this really could go either way. You know, Mike Elko and those guys are pumped up over there. Miami, they've got a good team. They played, you know, really good against Pittsburgh in the cold weather. College Station's such a hard place to win. Man, this is tough because this game could really go either way. I want to pick Miami and I want them to match up against Ohio State, but I just can't do it. I can't bet against the SEC. I got to go A&M at home. Marcel Reed, he does enough with his legs on the ground to win this game. I know Ruben Bain, Mark Fletcher, Kadarius Toney, Malachi Toney, Carson Beck. You know what? For some reason, I just can't trust Carson Beck. I really can't. I think he folds in the end there in College Station. And this is what I'll go with. This is how I'll play it out. Give me A&M to win this game, but Miami to cover the spread. I think Miami will do enough, but they won't come up. They won't come up in the end. A&M has a date in the quarterfinals in the Cotton Bowl with Ohio State on December 31st. That's how I'm feeling. And that's where I'm going. All right, next one, Ole Miss Tulane. I mean, I don't know really. I mean, you know, maybe you want like a Cinderella type story, and there's some way John Summerall and Tulane can win this football game against Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss just needs to do enough to win this game. I mean, 17.5 points is a lot. Of course, you know, Ole Miss blew out Tulane earlier this season. But, I mean, I guess we'll have some fun. I won't. I'm going to take Ole Miss minus 17.5. I mean, we saw last year when SMU played Penn State. I mean, we saw earlier this year when Ole Miss played Tulane. I love Tulane. I love John Summerall. Can't wait for him to coach the Florida Gators, even without Lane Kiffin. I think this team is too talented. I feel like it's a no-brainer. You know, I would love to be wrong, and Tulane would pull off the upset and prove me wrong. That would be great, but I don't see that happening. So won't spend too much time on that one there. And then the last game of the slate is Oregon versus James Madison. Another kind of woozy doozy. This is where you wish like Notre Dame was in, or that's how you kind of feeling, right? But hey, James Madison and Tulane, they deserve to get in. You can't punish them for winning their respective conference. So I'll take Oregon. I'll take Oregon to cover the spread, and those are my picks there. So that's how I'm feeling for this weekend, for this upcoming first round weekend. Really, the two games that everyone's looking forward to is Oklahoma and Alabama, as well as A&M and Miami. Hopefully, I'm clear from my cold at this point, and I feel better, and I can watch the game with my friends. We talked about the transfer portal, everything about that, and then we briefly talked about Sam Levitt on the podcast a couple weeks ago about him drawing major interest. Now it's Oregon, Indiana, Miami, or LSU. And I was trying to tell Arizona State fans that Sam Levitt was leaving. He wasn't going to stay, and they didn't want to listen to me. And now he's potentially linked to Oregon, Indiana, Miami, or LSU. Could very well see Lane Kiffin giving him a call. Wouldn't shock me one bit. So the next thing I wanted to mention for college football, it's the last part of the show for college football. TJ Finley enters the transfer portal heading to his 7th program. Dude, please just hang it up. Like, enough is enough. Like, the dream is over with TJ Finley. Former LSU, Auburn, Texas State, Western Kentucky quarterback is officially entering the portal. How is the NCAA allowing this? I mean, this is embarrassing at this point. He's played for 6 schools already. I feel like we talked about TJ Finley like 2 months ago on the podcast, and now here we are again. It's like, okay, he had a productive season in 2023, but the NCAA needs to just sit there and go, dude, you're just taking away from other players. Like, at this point, like, please go get a real job or go find something else to do, because at this point, this is embarrassing. I mean, this is absolutely insane. 7th year of eligibility. People graduate in 4 years. People go to graduate school and they do it in 2. You're way past your time, pal. It's time to pack it up and say, hey, I've given everything I've been able to give in college football. It's time for me to go. All right. Moving on to the NFL. Well, I'm kind of glad I got a chance to watch most of these games this past weekend. I didn't get a chance to watch them the previous weekend because I was on the cruise and we didn't really get to dabble about the NFL much on the podcast last episode. However, though, we'll start off with the Falcons beating the Bucs 29-28. I mean, the Bucs blowing that lead was absolutely embarrassing. That NFC South division is an absolute slugfest. Both teams are 7-7 because the Panthers lost to the Saints. Saints gave the Saints gave the Bucs a little Christmas present early on. Then you had the Bears beating the Browns 31-3. We'll talk about the Shedeur Sanders thing after we run down these scores. Ravens beating the Bengals 24-0. Joe Burrow's question future: is he going to want to be in the NFL much longer? What's going on? The Ravens are still in the hunt. Cardinals getting smoked by the Texans. The Texans are on fire right now. And if the playoffs were to end today, the Patriots would be hosting the Texans in the first round. We'll talk about that as well. The Patriots and the Bills. Jaguars beating the Jets 40-20. Trevor Lawrence with 6 total touchdowns. Good for him, man. Chargers beating the Chiefs, eliminating the Chiefs from playoff contention. We got a segment for that coming up. Bills beating the Patriots 35-31. Eagles blanking the Raiders 31-0. Packers losing to the Broncos 34-26. Storyline of that game is Micah Parsons tearing his ACL. Bo Nix silencing the doubters. They've won 11 straight games now. Good for them. They're sitting at 12-2. Rams beating the Lions 41-34. Big offensive showdown there out in SoFi this past weekend. It was a big shootout there. Lions playoff hopes are on the ropes. Then you had the Saints beating the Panthers 20-17. Phillip Rivers returns, and the Seahawks kid a late field goal in the end. Jason Myers to seal the deal for them. Cowboys beating the Vikings 34-26. And then the last Sunday game was Commanders-Giants 29-21. The whole Jackson Dart thing. They've lost 8 straight games now. And then Monday night's game. Dolphins Steelers won 28-15, knocking the Miami Dolphins out of playoff contention. Welcome to Miami. The Dolphins are out of the playoffs. All right. First thing I want to talk about from the NFL this past weekend is the Patriots and the Bills. The Bills beating the Patriots 35-31. Well, I was really upset watching this game when the Patriots were up 21-0, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, they're running away with this game. They're going to blow the Bills out." And then the second half came around, and I was like, Josh Allen. Of course they've come back because they came back against the Bengals the week before. They came back against the Ravens week 1. So they snapped the Patriots 10-game winning streak. But you know what? The Patriots are still a threat in the AFC. They're still one of the best teams in the NFL. So I don't want people to sit here and say otherwise because they played a darn good football game. The Bills are one of the best teams in the NFL, and it's the Bills' year, if you ask me, in the AFC because the Chiefs are out. Ravens are on the ropes as well. And, excuse me, I think the AFC is wide open for the Bills. But sticking here on this game, I don't want people to sit here and say the refs, this, that, the Patriots got robbed by the refs. Yeah, there were some questionable calls in that game, but the Patriots had plenty of opportunities in the second half to win this football game. They lost the game fair and square. They had an opportunity at the end of the game when it was 35-31, and they got the ball back, and they couldn't convert on fourth down at the end there. Drake May did the very best he could. They, of course, had the explosive run by Travion Henderson there at the end of the game where May had that great block. But we're not going to sit here and we're not going to harp and we're going to cry. The refs are the refs. That's how it is in every single game. The refs didn't rob the Patriots. We lost that game fair and square. It sucks to see our 10-game win streak go by the wayside. But you know what? I would rather lose that game than win out and be extremely cocky coming into the playoffs. You have to lose eventually. We got humbled. We got knocked off our block, and it was good to see us lose that game. Did I want to see us win that game and clinch the title? Yeah, absolutely. But it's never going to be easy with the Bills. And the Bills, the division is still up in the air. But you know what? Drake May played a pretty darn good game. He had the one interception. And yes, the interference with Marcus Jones was questionable when he didn't turn his head, and it was a late interception there. And then the Mac Hollins one with Tre'Davious White, that one there as well. Some holding calls. Mike Vrabel was complaining as well. But you know what? You play to play. The refs are going to do what the refs are going to do. The refs are always going to have their fingerprints on the game. I don't want to hear people as Patriots fans blame the refs for us losing that game. It's always going to be that way. It's never going to change. It's a cold weather game in December. The Bills deserve to win that game. They came back. They beat us fair and square. Josh Allen turned into Superman in the second half, and our defense was terrible in the second half. We couldn't stop a nosebleed, if you ask me, and I've had some nosebleeds the past few days from being sick. But, I mean, No, it has nothing to do with the refs. We're going to turn our focus to the Baltimore Ravens this Sunday in Baltimore, Sunday night football game. You turn the page and you move on. That's the greatest thing about the NFL is there's always a game next week, especially in the regular season. Playoffs, we don't have that luxury. But this weekend we do against the Baltimore Ravens. We turn our heads and we shift our focus to Baltimore. Like Bill Belichick used to say, we're on to Cincinnati. But yeah, Buffalo, they refused to fold. I mean, they were down 24-7 at one point. It looked like the wheels were falling off for them. We had the 21-point lead at halftime. So, hey, you know what? It is what it is. We turn our focus. Bills visit Cleveland this Sunday. I still think the Patriots are going to win the division, but I'm not playing for division. I'm playing for a Super Bowl. And yeah, I know it's our second year. It's only the second year with Drake May, but we have the team to do it. And people can clown them for all they want. Oh, I told you so, Joey. 11-2, or they were 11-2 and they actually played a real team and they finally lost and Drake May can't pass for over 300 yards. I don't listen to any of that. It's the NFL. It's any given Sunday. Anything can happen. You see it week in and week out with teams upsetting teams. The Bills are a good football team. They are expected to beat the Patriots. They were favored coming into that game. Now, does it suck to sit here and say we blew a 21-point lead and fans got cocky like Dave Portnoy? Yeah, it sucks to say, but you know what? It's the NFL. You move on, ready for next week. Hats off to the Bills. They deserve to win that football game. The next thing I wanted to mention was Micah Parsons tearing his ACL against the Broncos in the Sunday night 425 slate. Well, it sucked to see. It really was tough to see. As soon as I saw the non-contact, I was like, yep, that's a non-contact knee injury. He's done for the season, but it is what it is. Now, of course, they don't have Tucker Kraft. They potentially looks like they lost Christian Watson as well, but I'm not going to count the Packers out yet. It's going to be an interesting finish the rest of the way. It's a huge loss for them. It really is. But you know what? That's the nature of the game. You play with injuries. The next thing I wanted to bring up, and this NFL here, and everyone's been asking me, Joey, Chiefs, what's going on? Well, now they're officially out of the playoffs. And you saw, of course, the Tony Jefferson, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, all that stuff there. And Travis Kelce, is he going to be coming back? Now, we haven't really talked about a whole lot of Chiefs stuff because they've kind of been sputtering late. They were 6-7 before this game, and now they're 6-8, and they're officially eliminated from playoff contention. But I'm going to give the Chiefs credit where credit is due. I'm going to give them their flowers, and we're just to dedicate a little segment to them. You know what, man? Hats off to the Chiefs on a 10-year run. Excuse me. Excuse me. Hats off to the Chiefs on a 10-year run on making the playoffs for that many consecutive postseason appearances. 7 straight AFC championships. Mahomes has never missed an AFC championship game. And then the icing on the cake, it's like the cherry on top for them. And when basically the game is over, Mahomes rolls out like he usually does, this razzle-dazzle stuff, and he tears his ACL. Now, Mahomes is going to come back, of course, like a lion. I don't expect him to come back for most of next season, and it sucks. You know what? It's part of the game, though, right? You just saw Micah Parsons tear his ACL, and now you have Mahomes. But, I said the Chiefs were going to miss the playoffs. I didn't want them to miss the playoffs this way. It really wouldn't have mattered. They weren't. I mean, maybe, if they snuck in still, they were just playing for their hopes, right? The playoff hopes were on the line the past couple of weeks. They just were kind of sputtering. I don't really know what happened to the Chiefs. They basically have the same roster. And you know what? One thing I'll say, sometimes teams just run out of gas. If you saw the Patriots with their dynasty, like you can only have that for so long. It's tough to sit here and say and see that. And a lot of NFL fans are happy. America wins. The Chiefs finally lose. They're finally out of the playoffs. But moving aside from that, well, the question remains with Travis Kelce. Joey, what do you think? Is he going to retire? And I thought he was going to retire last year, but now I don't see Travis Kelce coming back to the NFL. I really don't. And we'll throw this in there for the Swifties out there, of course, because he's getting married next summer to Taylor Swift. Travis Kelce. Him and Taylor Swift are getting married next summer in Watch Hill, Rhode Island. And I just don't see I don't see Travis Kelce coming back. I don't see him getting a touchdown not thrown to him by Patrick Mahomes. Gardner Minshew or whatever quarterback they draft or whatever quarterback they sign, I just don't see it. I think we really saw Travis Kelce play his last official down in the NFL. I know he's going to take some time. He doesn't need the money. If I was him at this point, I'm walking away from the game. I gave everything I was able to give. 3 Super Bowls. One of the best tight ends of all time, leading, I think, reception yards in Chiefs history, touchdowns, you name it. One of the best offensive players in NFL history, if you ask me, as for the tight end position, how dominant of a force he was and how long he's been able to stay in the NFL. And his brother, Jason Kelce, on the Monday night show football last night basically said, Travis is going to take some time. Of course, it's still kind of early. and it's going to be about what he wants to do. But at this point, the media is there. You've made tons and tons of money. At this point, he doesn't need the money. And why put yourself in a risky situation to hurt yourself? And Mahomes isn't going to be throwing you the ball. You don't know how next season is going to go. It's like maybe if Mahomes was coming back, you go, okay, we got one last dance in us, but I really think this was it for him. And if it was it for Travis Kelce, hats off on an amazing career, because he was electric. He was fun to watch. Of course, even before the whole Taylor Swift stuff, even before Patrick Mahomes got there, he was always a pretty darn good tight end. 3-time Super Bowl champion, one of the biggest storylines in recent years for the NFL. And hats off to him if this is it for him, hanging it up. But yeah, I mean, Mahomes tearing his ACL was really tough to see, of course. And there was one thing that I wanted to, there were correlations between each other, which was so weird. And I immediately thought of this when I was watching the game, and I was like, what? Mahomes tore his ACL? I remember a quarterback in 2008 who tore his ACL with the Patriots. Tom Brady. Excuse me. Basically forced him to miss almost a full season, but of course went back in one of the greatest NFL comebacks in NFL history. And if people don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to come back like an absolute lion, you're sadly mistaken. This is not the end for Patrick Mahomes. He got banged up, he tore his ACL, but with the modern medicine, with the modern technology, with the modern surgeries, he's going to come back like a lion. He's going to come back great. And I'm, excited to see. But next thing we'll say is Jaden Daniels has officially been shut down for the rest of the season, which is good for his case there, because there's no point of playing him. Get him ready for next season. Get him healthy. Mariota, let him run the wheels off to the rest of the season and go that way. Maybe get a better draft pick, lose these games. And sorry guys, I'm losing my voice a little bit. Next thing we'll talk about is Dallas falling flat on their face against the Vikings 34-26. Dallas's playoff hits are all but done. And, maybe next week we'll talk more about that. I don't have much more energy left for you guys, but, it sucks to say the Cowboys, they're out of the playoffs. It was tough because they were trying to win all these games. They beat the Eagles, they beat the Chiefs, of course, and then they kind of just sputtered, these past 2 weeks against the Lions and the Vikings. And now, it's basically, all but older. But I got some little more energy for you guys. We'll talk about this here. The Shedeur Sanders wristband mix-up, chaos, conspiracies, and miscommunication. This is absolutely embarrassing. I understand the Browns lost the game 31-3. Shedeur Sanders had 3 interceptions. One of them really wasn't his fault. Jalen Johnson took the ball out of Isaiah Bond's hands in the red zone there. But if you're Kevin Stefanski, you're an NFL football head coach, and you can't give your quarterback the correct wristband. It's like, if there was any way of trying to secretly sabotage your quarterback, the cat's out of the bag. How do you give your quarterback the wrong wristband? It makes zero sense. Did he ever give Dylan Gabriel the wrong wristband? It's like, how does the front office not sit there and go, yeah, Kevin Stefanski, he does not they think he likes Shedeur Sanders. Here it is right here. Stefanski called it a miscommunication and said the wristband got something on it or whatever it was. You're an NFL football head coach and you're supposed to be prepared. You're supposed to be preparing your players for preparation. Imagine if that was Andy Reid doing that for Patrick Mahomes for the AFC Championship. That would never happen. Imagine if that was Josh McDaniels doing that for Tom Brady in a big game. That would never happen. Imagine if Mike Vrabel or McDaniels for Drake May. That would never happen. Stefanski's not fit to coach this team anymore. I don't know why they didn't fire him after this game, and I am strongly convinced, or I'm confident to say, he'll be getting his walking papers this offseason. From what has transpired these past few weeks of how he's managed Shedeur Sanders has been absolutely embarrassing. Yes, Shedeur Sanders didn't play the greatest game, but you know what? It's the NFL. It's week to week. The Bears are a good football team. Caleb Williams had a pretty good game, but Sanders himself downplayed it, saying the card just fell out. I don't believe that one bit. Shedeur's trying to take the high road. He's trying to be mature, but this is just a terrible look by Stefanski. And maybe people are going to say, Joe, you're reading into it too much. No, I'm not. No. Communication breakdowns between coaching and players. How do you mess this up? How do you mess up a wristband? What? You're supposed to have your players prepared. That's like a mother forgetting to give her baby food, or give the baby the pacifier or the binky. You don't forget to give the baby food. You make sure you give the baby food. Huh? Hello? Oh, I forgot to take my dog out for 8 hours. Well, the dog's going to piss all over the frickin' house. It makes zero sense. Well, of course, and then the next thing we'll briefly talk about, we had the Jets shaken up with the coaching staff. They fired Steve Wilkes. I mean, I don't really know. There's not much really to talk about that, but it was news that came in that we'll briefly mention. The Jets, they're going to be going a completely different direction at quarterback next year. I'm pretty sure they're going to be drafting Mendoza. But the last segment of the show that I wanted to talk about. While the Miami Dolphins have been officially eliminated from playoff contention, and I've been giving the Steelers a lot of crap for these past couple games, and Aaron Rodgers, like, his hand was hurt a couple games ago, and he didn't look like the Rodgers, and then cold weather comes around, and he's starting to look better, and he played a good game last night, but I still can't figure this out with the Dolphins, and the cold weather problem is the narrative. It is 100% like a problem. Like, okay, they beat the Jets this last game, and it was above 40 degrees. But this one here, Tua is now 0-6 in playoff games under 40 degrees. He's not a small sample size. 0 wins in under 40-degree weather. How embarrassing. I get the first 3 games that come to mind: last night's game against the Steelers, the Chiefs game, and the Packers game. Those 3 games there. And I'm sure there's been 3 other games as well. But Tua was not good last night. He had a terrible interception, and I don't know how much longer this front office or this regime is going to give Tua and Mike McDaniel the ropes. I don't understand it. Like, if there's a will, there's a way. Please move on from Tua after this season. Eat the money, eat the dead cap. The Broncos did it with Russell Wilson. I sound like a broken record. I mean, that game was embarrassing last night. How are you an NFL football team and you come into that game and you can't even compete? Like, okay, they competed in the end there when the Steelers are basically playing like prevent, cover 4, or they were just playing quarters or just playing soft zone coverage. Like, that's what you put up in cold weather. Like, that's the fight that you give. And I'll give them some credit. The defense played good in the first half, but the second half, like, the wheels just completely fell off. Like, Mike Tomlin said, we're going to let you, we're going to take away the run game from Etienne. We're going to make Tua throw the ball, and we're going to see what he's made of. Made of nothing. Because it was a terrible, terrible performance last night. I mean, it's sickening to say. Miami hasn't won a playoff game since 2000. Something has to change. I mean, losing 20-15 last night, they're completely out of the playoff picture. They had their late run when they had their 4-game win streak, and I was giving them some credit. They played the Commanders, the Bills, they played the Jets, and they played the Saints. So they won 4 straight games there. But, I mean, just another masterclass from Tomlin. I mean, he dominated a Monday Night Football again, but, you really have to question yourself as a fan or just around the NFL and go, the Dolphins built for cold weather football? Like, if Mike McDaniel and Tua can't get it done, and we're the Dolphins, we're one of the biggest markets in football, and we have Super Bowls and we've had Super Bowls in our trophy case, and you haven't won a playoff game since 2000, and that's what you put up on Monday Night Football? Like, that's embarrassing. I'm just baffled by it. Like, yes, the Steelers, are they one of the best? Are they that team right now? No, they'll probably still win the division, probably sneak in the playoffs. But, I mean, just that performance was just bad. Can they win outside of warm weather and speed-based games for the Dolphins? No, the narrative is still there until they close that. And I thought to myself watching the game, I'm like, you know what? They went up 3-0. This is a really ugly game. Maybe they will, shut that book or close that chapter today and say, hey, maybe they'll win a cold weather game and they'll close the narrative. They'll become 7-7. No. How much longer can this franchise live off regular season success without postseason results? Not much longer. It blows my mind that Stephen Ross said that we're going to stick with Tua and McDaniel next year. I mean, I don't understand it. I really don't. But on that note, guys, I think that really does it for us. I mean, we covered a lot of college football, of course, with the playoff games this weekend. DJ Lagway entering the portal, all the transfer portal madness there. Raiola entering the portal. DeBoer's saga with Alabama, if he's going to leave for Michigan, which in my opinion, we kind of shut that down. Then we moved on to the NFL with the whole Shedeur Sanders wristband situation there. I told you guys I'm not feeling the greatest. I'm doing the best I can for you guys. Hopefully next week I'll have a clear voice and my voice won't be as nasally. But as always, guys, make sure to follow us on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. We appreciate the continuous support. It's been lovely this entire college football season. Now that the regular season is officially over and we're into playoff season and bowl games, we just wrapped up with the Heisman, and I can't believe season's almost over already. We're going to get these good games coming up here this weekend. We'll break those all down for you guys next week. We talked about the Patriots losing to the Bills with the whole narrative of the Patriots can't beat a good team, Dolphins in the cold weather. And just make sure to subscribe, rate, and review that podcast on YouTube. We appreciate the continuous support, and we'll see you guys next week.